What would you do if every brilliant child in your family went mad before they turned 18? My name is Obinna Chikere, but people in my village call me the quiet one. I was born into a family where intelligence felt like a curse. We were all smart, dangerously smart. My elder sister Ebele could solve complex maths at age 10. My cousin Toby once repaired a broken radio without ever learning electronics. I too could read entire books in one night and remember everything. But we were all terrified. Not of failure, not of poverty, but of something far worse. Madness. It was like a dark shadow that crept through our bloodline, hiding in the corners of our brilliance. By the time I was 15, 4 of my relatives had lost their minds. They spoke in riddles. They screamed at invisible people. One even disappeared into the forest and was never found again. They all had one thing in common. They were the smartest in their time, so I began to fear school. I stopped reading too much. I pretended not to be sharp. I would deliberately fail questions in class so teachers wouldn't praise me. I just wanted to be normal. My mother, Mama Ngozi, would watch me with tired eyes and say, "Nam, don't dig too deep. That's how it starts." We lived in Amuru, a village with red sand roads and ancient shrines hidden in the forests. Our compound was large, a proud symbol of our heritage. But it felt cursed. The elders called it the compound of fallen minds. Even visitors refused to stay overnight. I always wondered, why us? Why did knowledge trigger madness in our family? Why did we all feel like prisoners inside our own minds? Then something changed. One evening, while walking home from the farm, I heard a voice. Not in my head. A real voice from a nearby loudspeaker. It was a traveling crusade in the next village. The preacher's voice cut through the night like thunder. That madness in your family is not ordinary. It is ancestral bondage. But there is freedom in Christ Jesus. Something in me froze, then burned. I couldn't sleep that night. That sentence haunted me. The next day, without telling anyone, I traveled to that crusade ground. I didn't care if the madness caught me on the way. I needed to know the truth. What happened that night at the crusade was the beginning of a war. A war for my mind. A war for my bloodline. I arrived at the crusade ground with dust in my eyes and fear in my chest. The place was already shaking. The preacher, a tall man with deep tribal marks and a wide flowing gown, was moving like wind across the stage. His voice wasn't ordinary. It felt like thunder wrapped in honey. Each word pierced straight into my chest. "There are some of you here," he said, "carrying battles older than your grandparents. Your brilliance attracts spirits of confusion because they know once you understand your power, you'll break their grip." I wept. For the first time in my life, I cried in public. Not because I was sad, but because it felt like someone finally saw me, saw the torment, saw the fear, saw my family's unspoken pain. After the preaching, the man of God called for people to come forward. I ran like a madman. Yes, me who feared madness, and knelt at the altar. He laid his hand on my head, gently, and whispered, "Buy the book of Midnight Cry, Volume 7 from the ushers, and start your battle tonight." That was all he said. No drama, no shaking, just instructions. I obeyed like a soldier. I bought the book with the last 800 in my pocket. It was a small, blue paperback with thunder drawn on the front. But inside, it felt like a doorway to heaven. That night I returned home and locked my door. Everyone had gone to bed. I lit a candle, opened the first page, and my hands trembled. The book began with these words: "The madness in your lineage is not medical. It is spiritual. The ground speaks." Goosebumps. I continued reading until I saw the prayer instructions. Start midnight prayers. Do it for 7 nights. An encounter will come. Do not break it. No long grammar, just raw truth. That same night I knelt beside my bed. It was 12:03 a.m. when I started. My voice was shaking. My knees were weak. But I prayed. I prayed like my mind depended on it. Because it did. Lord, I cried, whatever is hiding in my bloodline, reveal it. Whatever is tormenting us, scatter it. Let the ground speak if it must. I want freedom, even if it terrifies me. I didn't sleep till dawn. And that was just night 1. By the 3rd night, I began to feel eyes watching me in my dreams. Shadows walked past my window. I started waking up with sweat, yet I wasn't afraid. I was angry. Something evil had robbed my family for generations. But now, something holy was stirring. By the 6th night, I knew what I had to do. Return to the village. Face my family. Call them out of fear into battle. Because this was no longer just my war. It was our deliverance season. But I had no idea what was about to happen next. The thunder was waiting. The day I returned to Amuru, the sky was unusually dark for 2 p.m. Even the trees bent slightly, as if they knew something was about to shift. I walked into our compound with nothing but a bag, my Bible, and the Midnight Cry prayer book. But I didn't come as a visitor. I came as a messenger. Mama Ngozi met me at the entrance with her wrapper tied across her chest and her eyes full of questions. "Obinna, where did you go? Your eyes are red like you've seen spirits." I looked at her and said calmly, "Mama, it's time we stop pretending we don't know where our problems are coming from." She blinked. The younger children gathered by the corridor. My cousin Somedina peeped from behind the kitchen wall. Even my uncle Uzochukwu, who never leaves his room, came out, holding a walking stick and shaking his head as if he smelled trouble. I didn't care. For the first time in my life, I stood tall in that compound and said with boldness, "I'm calling for 7 nights of prayer in this house. Midnight to 1 a.m. I've discovered the root of our madness and we must dig it out. I need everyone." You could have heard a pin drop. Uncle Uzochukwu hissed, "Nonsense. Has this boy joined those fake pastors in town?" But Mama looked at me again. Her lips trembled. Then, quietly, she asked, "You mean there's still hope for us?" I nodded. That night, we cleaned out the old hut beside the yam barn, the only quiet place left in our compound. We placed stools in a circle. I brought candles and my small speaker for worship songs. We had no instruments, no microphones, just our voices, our pain, and that little blue book. At exactly 12 a.m., I stood up. My hands shook slightly as I read the first prayer point. It was titled, "Let the buried secrets of my father's house vomit my freedom." We all shouted it 3 times. Then again. Mama was sweating. Somedina cried. Even Uncle Uzochukwu stayed in the shadows, listening. The air in that hut became heavy. I felt something press on my back, like invisible fingers trying to bend me. But I pressed on. By the 3rd prayer point, the wind outside started to howl. Then the candle flickered. Then the window creaked. Then silence. Suddenly, Mama screamed. She said she saw a shadow kneeling beside her. But when we turned, there was no one. That was the moment I knew something ancient had just been awakened. We ended that night's prayer in trembling silence. But deep inside, I felt joy. Not because I wasn't scared. I was, but because I knew one thing for sure. We had just started a war, and heaven was watching. By the fourth night of prayer, the air in our compound no longer felt normal. There was a presence, heavy, silent, watching. Even the animals could feel it. The goats stopped bleating. The birds no longer sang at dawn. One of our chickens laid an egg and then refused to leave the nest. My little cousin, Soma, whispered to me that she dreamed of someone sweeping bones under the prayer hut. I told her we're almost there, but even I didn't know what was coming. That night, the clouds gathered like soldiers in the sky. The air was hot, like the rain was boiling above us. We gathered again inside the hut. Mama, Somadina, Uncle Uzochukwu, and two other cousins who joined after hearing about strange dreams they couldn't explain. This time, I didn't begin with worship. I didn't start with greetings. I stood up and said, "Tonight is war, and we're not begging anymore." The first prayer point was violent. "O God of Elijah, if there is anything buried in this compound that is fighting my family, let thunder expose it by fire." We shouted it 7 times. The wind outside blew open the prayer hut's wooden door. The candle blew out. Then, boom! Thunder. It shook the entire compound. Then the ground beneath us cracked. I heard it. I felt it. It was like someone had slammed a giant hammer beneath our feet. Somadina screamed and ran into Mama's lap. One of the stools broke. Then the lightning came, slicing the sky in half like a blade. And it struck the meeting hall of our ancestors, just a few steps from the prayer hut. The old building, where our forefathers once gathered to discuss village matters, collapsed like a house of cards. Dust rose into the sky. The smell of burnt wood filled the air. We ran out. Rain started falling, but no one moved to cover themselves. We just stood there, watching, our mouths open, hearts racing. That meeting hall had stood for 92 years. Nobody ever touched it. The elders said it was sacred. That's where all the great men of our family once met. But now, it was lying in rubble, and something was calling from beneath the floor. I knew in my spirit, God was speaking. We didn't sleep that night. The next morning, the rain stopped. The sun rose quietly, as if embarrassed by what happened. But the damage was clear. The collapsed hall had left a wide hole in the earth. So I gathered the youths of the village. I told them we needed to clear the debris. Some were afraid, but I insisted. If we want freedom, we must face the truth. And then, as we began digging, we found the bones. Skeletons. Dozens. Some tied, some stacked, some with broken skulls, all buried beneath the foundation of that hall. The workers dropped their tools and ran. Mama fell to her knees and began to weep. Uncle Uzochukwu looked like a man who had seen the devil himself. He whispered, "They said our great-grandfather was a powerful man, but they didn't say he was a killer." It hit us like thunder. These were slaves. Killed, buried, used for rituals to seal power. That was our inheritance. No wonder madness followed our family. No wonder knowledge became a trap. No wonder God himself struck that building with lightning. The buried blood was crying. But now, it had been exposed. The bones didn't just shake our family. They shook the entire village. By the afternoon of the 6th day, word had spread like wildfire. Women stood in groups, whispering behind their wrappers. Men sat outside their compounds, shaking their heads. Children were warned not to go near our house. We were no longer the compound of fallen minds. We were now the compound of buried blood. That evening, just before the 7th prayer night, the village elders summoned Mama Ngozi to the town square. I followed her, holding the prayer book under my arm like a weapon. There were 8 of them, all old men and with white beards, dusty walking sticks, and suspicious eyes. They didn't greet us. They didn't smile. The one in the center, Paguba, the oldest of them all, spoke slowly. Ngozi, this prayer your son is doing must stop. My heart began to pound. Mama tried to speak, but her voice trembled. So I stepped forward and said, "Is it because of what was revealed under the meeting hall?" Silence. Then Paguba's eyes narrowed. "Some secrets are meant to stay buried, Obinna." I couldn't believe it. They knew. I asked, my voice rising, "You mean you all knew human beings were buried under that hole? And you said nothing?" Paguba slammed his walking stick on the ground. "Do you know what that hole was built with? Blood. Blood that gave your ancestors power, wealth, respect." He pointed a bony finger at me. "You want to scatter everything because of one book and midnight shouting?" My fists clenched. "I want to scatter whatever is killing our minds. What kind of power makes every smart person in our family go mad? What kind of wealth takes away our peace?" The other elders began murmuring. One of them, Paudena, finally broke down and said, "It wasn't supposed to last this long. We were told the sacrifice would cover only 3 generations. That's when it hit me like a slap. The madness, the fear, the darkness. It wasn't just a curse. It was the payment for an ancient agreement. A deal sealed with innocent blood. But they never renewed it. And now the spirits had turned on their children." I looked at Paguba straight in the eyes and said, "It ends tonight." He laughed, but his laugh was weak, tired. "If you dig too deep, Obinna, something might come out." I walked away. Not because I wasn't afraid, but because I finally understood something. The pain in our family was protected by silence. And silence is where demons hide. That night, I gathered my family again. Mama was shaking, but she came. Uncle Uzochukwu tied a red cloth on his head and brought a bell. He said if they were going to fight back, he would fight back too. The thunder didn't wait this time. It began before we opened our mouths, but I wasn't afraid anymore. I don't remember sleeping the night before. My eyes were open, but my soul was wide awake, alert, ready. Something in the air felt sharp, like lightning trapped in silence. Even the crickets refused to sing that night. At exactly 11:45 p.m., we gathered in the hut one final time. Mama Ngozi wore all white, her old church gown. She had tied her hair and removed her earrings. Uncle Uzochukwu held his belt tight. Somadina came with her small Bible, already open to Psalm 91. My other cousins sat cross-legged, faces pale, lips trembling. But me, I was no longer afraid. I was on fire, not with rage, but with faith. I opened the Midnight Cry prayer book and read the words on the final night. "Tonight, let the altar of madness catch fire. Tonight, let God fight for you." I raised my voice. "Everyone stand. We're not sitting for this one. This is war." The first prayer point echoed through the night. "O God of vengeance, arise tonight and wipe away the handwriting of affliction written against my bloodline." We screamed it. Once, twice, 7 times. Then something strange happened. A sudden wind rushed into the hut, even though the windows were closed. The candle flame bent sideways. The pages of my prayer book flipped violently. And then, boom! The entire hut shook. We froze. Then we heard it, screaming. Not from outside, not from any of us. It was coming from under the ground. Deep, echoed, unnatural. It sounded like a crowd of angry, weeping voices, wailing, groaning, begging. Mama fell to her knees and shouted, "Jesus, have mercy." And just then, the thunder roared again, louder than ever. This time, it wasn't a strike. It was a battle cry. The skies cracked open. Rain began to pour, like the heavens were emptying a sea. But it didn't stop our voices. We kept praying. Every covenant of madness in my family. B-R-E-A-K, I shouted. Everyone shouted. The wind howled. The candle went out. And in the darkness, a vision came. I saw it clearly, even with my eyes open. A chained man, naked, foaming at the mouth. Then another, and another. All of them were my family members, past and present, tied together with ropes that looked like snakes. Their mouths were stuffed with black cloth, their eyes empty. Then a hand, bright like fire, appeared and touched the first chain. It melted. Then the second and third. Chains were snapping, one after the other. I heard bones cracking, not in pain, but in freedom. Then a voice thundered through my spirit. This family shall be free. The ground has spoken. The blood has been answered. I fell backward. The next thing I knew, it was morning. I woke up to find everyone sleeping in the prayer hut, their faces soaked in tears, but peaceful. For the first time in years, there were no screams, no madness, no shadows, only peace. Mama looked at me and whispered, "Obinna, something left this family last night." And I knew she was right. By 6 a.m., the sun had painted the sky gold. But in our compound, we weren't smiling. We were quiet, still. We had seen too much, felt too much. The madness was gone, yes, but the pain remained. And so did the bones. Dozens of them, now fully uncovered from the ruins of the ancestral hall, lay exposed like a testimony. Some still had remnants of shackles. One skull had a rusted blade lodged in it. We couldn't ignore it any longer. I gathered the family, even the skeptical ones. Even Pauzochukwu, who had once mocked our prayers, came out that morning with his cap off and tears in his eyes. "We must give them a proper burial," Mama said, her voice low but firm. They were not animals. And she was right. We couldn't just shout and clap and dance that we were free. Not while their bones still cried out for peace. So we carried them, one by one, wrapped each skeleton in a white cloth, and placed them gently in a wooden box we borrowed from the church. The entire village came out to watch us, some in awe, some in shame, some in fear. I led the small procession to the edge of the forest, where there was a clearing filled with soft earth and silence. And there, we dug a new grave, not in secrecy like our ancestors did, but in the open, before the sun and the people. Before we covered the last coffin, I knelt beside it and whispered, "I'm sorry, I don't know your names. I don't know your stories. But I know this. Your blood has spoken. And by God's mercy, your suffering ends here." We prayed. We cried. We poured oil. And then we sang. Not a loud praise song, but a soft one. "It is well. It is well with our soul." As the last handful of sand hit the grave, a wind blew, soft but strong. We all felt it. It wasn't ordinary. It felt clean, like the air was finally free to move. That evening, something strange happened. Children in our family who used to mumble suddenly started talking clearly. Uncle Usochukwu slept through the night. No screaming, no confusion. Mama stood outside the house, just breathing deeply, like someone who forgot how fresh air felt. And me? I knelt by the old prayer hut, placed the blue book on my chest and cried. Tears of joy, tears of healing. We were finally free. But freedom is... Do you know what true deliverance feels like? It's not a loud scream. It's not falling to the ground. It's waking up one morning and realizing that the fear is gone. That was our family after the 8th night. We no longer walked on eggshells. We no longer whispered when talking about madness. We stopped hiding our brilliance. We embraced it. Somadina, the little cousin who once feared school, is now top of her class. Uncle Uzochukwu started a small carpentry business and now speaks in complete sentences. Mama, she sings again, every morning. And me? I'm not just Obinna Chikere, the quiet one. I am Obinna the watchman, the one who dared to ask questions, the one who broke the silence, the one who saw fire and didn't run. But above all, I am the one who believes in prayer. Not the cute prayer we recite when things are okay, but the kind that shakes the foundations of hell, the kind that disturbs ancient covenants, the kind that invites God into rooms humans fear to enter. You see, the madness in our family was not just genetic, it was spiritual. It was engineered by evil men and fueled by silence. Until one boy with a blue prayer book said, "No more." So I beg you, yes, you reading or listening to this tale, don't wait for the thunder to come before you pray.